Here we go, look at this. We're gonna do the little. Pizza is one of those things that everybody loves. Now, there's a few different kinds of pizza you can have, but one of my favorites is a Detroit-style pizza. You've got the nice, thick crust, a delicious cheesy topping with marinara sauce, and the crispy edges of cheese around the base is what makes it so amazing. So stick around and I'm gonna show you how I love to make this. First, we need to get this dough ready. So we're gonna be doing a 75% hydration for this. We want that nice chew, we want that nice rise and all those bubbles. This is what makes it really tasty at the end. So first up, we're gonna get the yeast ready. So get your scales and get a bowl, and then we're gonna add in some instant dried yeast. You can use sourdough for this, you can do fresh yeast, but here, for the sake of ease, I'm gonna be using some easy bake instant yeast. So we need about 6 grams of this, 6-7 grams. So I'm just gonna weigh that out into here. And then we're gonna bloom this. So we need to add room temperature water. We don't want it to be freezing cold, otherwise the yeast won't activate. And here we're doing a 75% hydration, so 338 grams of water, and then get a little whisk and just gonna mix it together. We're just gonna leave this for about 10 minutes until some bubbles start appearing on the top and it gets nice and foamy. That way you know the yeast is ready to go. And then time to measure the dry ingredients. So I'm using a stand mixer bowl here because I'm gonna be mixing a stand mixer, but again, this is one of those doughs which you can mix by hands. It will just take a little bit longer and a little bit more arm effort, but hey, it's a good gym workout. So tare the bowl to 0, and then we're gonna add in some strong white bread flour. This is what you need. It's got a good protein content for it. It'll give you a nice chew. And weigh in 450 grams of this flour. We're gonna be using some fine sea salt. Make sure it is just fine sea salt. If you use this iodized table salt, it doesn't work quite as well. Give that a little mix and then set it aside. I've got myself my stand mixer here now, and we're gonna get this dough made. So for the stand mix, we're gonna do it about 8 to 10 minutes, but for hands, it might take about 10 to 12 minutes. Get yourself your dough hook, and then I'm gonna pop this in the stand mixer. Then we're gonna set this down. Set it on a medium speed. As you can see here, you've got a nice froth and bubbles appearing on top of the yeast mixture. This now shows it has activated. It's very easy to do with dry instant yeast. So gradually stream this in. Be careful not to tip it on the paddle. Turn the speed up. And as you can see, it's starting to come together. Slow the speed down a bit, and then it's as easy as that. We will knead this for 10 minutes, and then you'll be able to tell when it's done the window pane test. You will take a piece, you'll stretch it, and if you can see light through it and it's not tearing, you know it's ready to go. If it's still tearing and you can't see through it a little bit, then go back to kneading and do it for a few more minutes and you'll be ready to go. So we're gonna turn it off, we're gonna take it out. As you can see, look how soft it looks. And you can tell it's high hydration by just how kind of almost liquid the dough is. You can see how smooth it is. Look how lovely that looks. Okay, and then we're gonna get ourselves a glass bowl, and then we're just gonna spray it with some oil or brush it with some oil. Just gonna scrape it around to a smooth dough like that, and then pop it into our bowl. So now we're gonna cover this and leave it to rise for about 2 hours until it's doubled in size. 2 hours later, dough has now doubled in size. So just look at this. As you can see here, it's a bit wobbly. So what we're gonna do, knock the air out of it. So before you do that, grab yourself your pizza pan. This is the one I've got. I'll link it down below on Amazon. Pretty standard, non-stick, high-sided pans that you're gonna cook the pizza in. They've got a slight curve to them. Just gonna go in with a lot of olive oil. And then we're just gonna use our hand and brush this around because we do not want it to stick. We have the pizza pan oiled. We're now gonna tip this out. We're gonna knock out some air and then we're gonna tip it into the pan. So using my hand, I'm going to scrape this out, reshape it a little bit, let gravity do its thing, just spread it out a bit. We're going to just lay this into the pan like that. Similar to focaccia, again, we're just going to press this down a little bit to start with, just so there's an even spacing of the dough in the pan. Once you've spread it out into all the corners like that, we're then going to leave it to rest until doubled in size again. So I'm going to cover this with cling film. Cool, so as you can see there, it's all covered, and I'm going to leave it to rest now. The second key component to this pizza is the marinara sauce. This is a tomato-based sauce. We're going to be using some little extra ingredients just to elevate it that little bit more, and this goes so nicely on the cheesy, crispy pizza. It's such a good match, and it's classically what they do on a Detroit style pizza. So first up, you're gonna grab your ingredients. So I've got some roasted red peppers. I've of course got my nutty peeled tomatoes. I've got some fresh oregano, got some sun-dried tomatoes, and these will be the essential components to our marinara sauce. So get a blender and whack these all into the blender. I'm gonna be using 2 whole tins of these nutty tomatoes. Out here, I'm making enough sauce for actually 2 pizzas. If you want to do exactly the right amount for the dough, then use the quantities down below in the description. Our sun-dried tomatoes. We've got our roasted red peppers, some of our fresh oregano. Take off the stalks, we don't want any of them in there, but we're just gonna put the leaves in. If you don't have fresh oregano, use probably a tablespoon of dried oregano in this place. We're gonna add some salt. Then we're just gonna blend this until smooth. It's as simple as that. So for the base of this sauce, we then need 3 garlic cloves. These are so chunky, so I'm actually just gonna use 2 big ones, but yeah, 3 garlic cloves is kind of what I want. Pan onto the heat. We're now gonna toast the garlic first because we want to get that really nice nuttiness, and then we're gonna add the tomatoes in to just cook off a little bit, get a little bit of a deeper flavor, take up all those garlic oils, and then we'll leave it to cool and it'll be ready to serve. It's so easy to do, but it tastes amazing. So I've got my extra virgin olive oil. I'm just gonna go in probably with about 2 tablespoons here. Get your microplane grater. Turn the heat down to low actually once the oil's preheated because you don't want to burn the garlic. Okay, and then just mix this in and toast it until it's golden brown. And then once it's all golden, I'm gonna tip in our tomato sauce. Get all of those oils incorporated, all of that garlic in there. We've got everything in the pan, it is easy as that. We're now gonna cover it with a lid over medium heat, and then simply gonna cook it for about 20 to 30 minutes until it's thickened nicely, because we want it to be quite thick so it sits well on top of the pizza. Once it's cooked, adjust the seasoning, taste it, see what you want to add more of, and then yeah, you're ready to go. Our next component to this pizza is non-traditional, but I love to add it on top. I'm gonna be doing some pulled pork on top of the pizza at the end once you've got the tomato sauce and all the cheese. Works really nicely, and hey, you don't have to do this, but also this is a great recipe just to have the pulled pork anyway. So let's make some pulled pork and I'm gonna show you how I like to do it. So we've got some pork shoulder here. I'm just gonna cut this into chunks. Pork shoulder is the best because it has loads of fat running throughout. So yeah, it's perfect for pulled pork when sometimes it can get quite dry after you cook it for 3 hours. And then we're gonna set it aside. Get yourself a heavy based cast iron pan. It's really good because it retains the temperature when you're slow cooking for a few hours, but any pan will do ultimately. Get that heated to high. Get some vegetable oil. So we want a neutral oil, high heat, high smoke point. Give the meat a bit of a season on the board. This just helps draw out moisture and helps with the crust. Then we're gonna go in with some oil. Just chuck in the meat. This up to temperature. And sear it for a few minutes on each side until golden brown. This is the Maillard reaction and it is flavor. We need this to get a really good tasty pulled pork in the end. So as you can see, we're starting to get a little bit of color on them. And if it's sticking, leave it. As soon as it's caramelized, it will release. If it's sticking, that's a good thing because it's building that nice crust on the outside and it will eventually come off. Don't rip it off, otherwise you ruin the meat. So the meat is here, so I'm just gonna set this aside whilst I see the other bits. Look at that, I got a nice bit of color on all the pieces of meat. Get the others in. Okay, so now it's seared. I'm gonna turn the heat down a bit, chuck all the other bits of meat back in. I'm gonna add some cider. This is optional. It's gonna add a really nice sweetness to the sauce, which we're gonna reduce. We're gonna add some stock. We're gonna add some chipotle paste, which I've got here. This adds a nice smokiness, and then a little bit of thyme, a little bit of oregano, because we've got some oregano in the sauce. This will pair nicely with it. Some garlic, which I'm just gonna crush in my hand. Don't want too much because this is not a garlicky dish, but just adds a little bit of subtleness. A splash of apple cider vinegar. Black pepper. Again, we're just building up the layers of flavor here. A bit more sea salt, a splash of Worcester sauce. Gonna bring this to a little simmer. We're gonna mix this all in first, and then we're gonna put a lid on it and we're gonna cook it in the oven at 160 degrees Celsius or this in degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna cook it for 3 to 4 hours until the pork is beautiful and tender. The best thing about pulled pork is when it's moist and it's falling apart and it's not dry. So this will definitely get that, and it's gonna be packed full of flavor at the same time. Excuse me, I need to clean my oven. And there we have it. 4 hours later, cut to then. This looks incredible. I can just tell already, look, it's just gonna fall apart completely. Okay, so the pork is cooked. I'm gonna scoop this out onto another tray, and then we're just gonna shred this pork with some forks. And then just keep breaking this apart. So what we're gonna do now, whilst that's just cooling a little bit, I'm gonna get these juices and I'm gonna reduce them until they're thick and syrupy. This just condenses the flavor. We then pour this over the pulled pork, mix this all in, and it will taste amazing. Got myself a fresh pan, and then we're just gonna get a sieve over it and pour it into the pan. And then a little secret trick here is I'm just gonna add a little handful of sugar. This just makes it a little bit sweet, which is really, really nice. Whack this heat to high and then just bring it to the bowl, simmer it for about 5 to 10 minutes. We want it to be thick and syrupy, so again, play this by ear and just keep an eye on it until it's the desired consistency. There's no set time to this, so yeah, keep stirring though to make sure it doesn't burn. And as you can see, it's been a few minutes and it is now really bubbly and syrupy. So I'm gonna take this off before it burns, because I don't want it to burn. And also you don't want it to be too thick. And then bring our pork back. This is also really good, like if you cook the pork in advance and it cools down a little bit, this is the perfect way to cool it down. And just look at this. And then using those forks, just mix this juice into the pork. And there we go. That is what you call some bloody good pulled pork made in your oven at home. Without a smoker, without a barbecue, this is the real deal. Okay, so the dough is nearly done, so we're gonna get the topping of the cheese ready. So I've got some cheddar cheese here. You can use whatever you want, use some mozzarella as well. And I'm just gonna cut it in half and we're gonna grate this all up. Gonna get a nice amount because we wanna cover that pizza in a lot of cheese. So here is the cheddar cheese all grated. I'm gonna set that aside. And we've got some low moisture mozzarella as well to go with this. Give it a little grate as well. And then the mozzarella goes in there. And then actually, let's chuck these in a bowl just to give it an even mix. This is now doubled in size again. And you can see here, it's started to get a few bubbles, which is really nice. It's very similar to that of focaccia. But I'm now just gonna get a little bit of oil on my hands. And then rub your hands so you've got it all over your hands. And then you're just gonna press in like you do with focaccia. This is just so it doesn't rise too much when you're cooking it. And there you have it. And now I'm gonna pop this in the oven, so we need it really hot. Pizzas, you cook them at really high temperatures, so we've got the oven at full whack at 250 degrees Celsius, or this in Fahrenheit, and we're gonna cook this for 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. And let's take out this pizza dough. There we go, so it should be par baked like that. Cover this bad boy in a lot of cheese. So just go generously all over. But yeah, we're gonna use all of this. Make sure you get it down the sides. A little bit of extra grating of mozzarella on top to cover any gaps. Basically, we've now covered it in the cheese, half baked it, and we've made sure there's lots of cheese down the cracks around the side. And that's what's gonna get a really nice crispy topping. And I'm gonna put this back in for a few more minutes and it's gonna cook until beautifully golden and crisp. Now that is what you call a cheesy, crispy Detroit style pizza, but it's not finished. Look at those really crispy, craggly edges. That is exactly what you want on your Detroit style pizza. There, look at that back on there. I'm gonna transfer this to my slate. Oh boy. So we're gonna lay over some of our tomato sauce, grate over some extra Parmesan cheese. Okay, to top this, we're gonna add a little bit of basil. Got a few little stalks here, and I'm just gonna give them a little chop. You shouldn't really chop basil, but for the garnish, this is what's gotta be done. Just gonna sprinkle a little bit along those lines. And then last but not least, to take this from a more traditional Detroit style pizza to the Sam's Eats version, I'm gonna be topping this with the pulled pork we just made. Now that, ladies and gents, is what you call a loaded Detroit style pizza at home. I think you guys should try making this. Honestly, it's actually not as hard as you think. And if you don't have a pizza oven, if you need to cook indoors, this is the perfect way to do pizza. I'll put the recipe in the description so you can follow it step by step. And just like that, we have our pizza served. So I think it's only right. I cut it up, tuck in, and give this a taste. You've got the perfect channel down the middle. Here we go, look at this. So we're gonna do the little, beautiful. You can see the nice light airiness. It's very fluffy. So firstly, the crust. Can't lie, that is crispy as you get. Right. Do you see my mouth? That is incredible. If you guys want to try this, definitely give it a go. Gotta be one of my favorite ways to make pizza at home, especially when you don't have that pizza oven, like I said. No, on a real note, this is really nice. You've got the like high hydration dough, it's chewy, it's springy, it's almost like a focaccia, and then you've got that nice tomatoey, slightly sweet sauce from the bell peppers. You've got basil, cheese, classics, and then that pulled pork just takes it to that next level. Give it a go, let me know what you think, and in the meantime, let's do some cooking.